The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. Joining us in studio, Mike Glennon, former NC State quarterback, 10-year NFL veteran, friend of the show. Matter of fact, such a friend of the show. He was at our numbers game live last night. We put him to the test on stage during the intermission leading into the finals. We had Mike up, and we gave him 10 of his former teammates. I tried to stick him with some toughies. He knew the jersey number. After a little thinking on a few, he knew the jersey number for all 10 of his former teammates. Pretty good showing, Mike.
10 for 10. I was pleased to get them all, but I'm still kicking myself. I got the Will Bauman. Kept saying 39. He was 36, but I can take kind of the reverse 6 and 9.
Punter,
and then
punter, right?
C.J. Wilson, I knew he was a low 20s number, but for whatever reason, 20 wasn't coming to me. But I was happy with 10 for 10. Wish I would have got it all on the first try, though.
I went C.J. Wilson for the interception to seal the Maryland
exactly
comeback. And that was the one. I guess in pandemonium you're not like, what number was he? But still, Mike Glennon here. So let's talk state football as it sits right now. It is Thursday, August 22nd, a week from today. Next Thursday, State's going to be playing against Western Carolina. Obviously, with so many eyeballs on Tennessee in the second game, what are the challenges, if there are any, for the Western Carolina game?
I don't think there are many. I think this is, and when you have a veteran team like they do and a veteran quarterback, there's not too many kinks you're probably working through other than just new faces playing together for the first time. But, playing in scrimmages against the ones and honestly the twos is better competition for NC State. So I think they should come out ready to go. I'm excited to see how Grayson McCall plays, and I'm excited to see kind of some of the new faces on defense. How does Sean Brown look, replacing Peyton Wilson at that will linebacker, and some of the other new transfers in the secondary.
We've heard all offseason, and State fans know it, right? It's Grayson McCall incoming, Casey Concepcion returning, Noah Rogers, former 5-star in the transfer portal, Wesley Grimes, wide receiver transfer from Wake Forest, Justin Jolie, tight end from UConn, a couple of running backs from Duke and Oklahoma, like on and on and on and on. The common refrain is there's only one football. Maybe I'm nitpicking here, and you can just say, no, we don't worry about this. But in a game like Western Carolina, do you almost want to make sure everybody gets theirs? That way, against Tennessee, right, you're not going to be able to choose. You're not going to be able to say, like, hey, let's get Wesley Grimes a touchdown against Tennessee because it's the defense is going to make every decision for you, and that's the case. Against Western Carolina, is it almost like, let's leave the starters in until everybody gets one?
I think you probably go in starting the game not thinking about that at all, but if you do get it off to a big lead before you probably plan on taking Grayson, it's like, let's get Noah a touch if he doesn't have one. Let's get Wesley a touch. Maybe not, a touchdown, just let's target him on this play. There's certain plays on the call sheet that they're the first read, and let's go with that just to get them a feel for playing, especially a guy like Noah Rogers who hasn't played. I mean, he was redshirting at Ohio State. So you don't start the game that way, but if it's going the way that you expect it to, then at some point I think you may try to target a guy rather than just let the quarterback read it out.
Now, we'll talk to you before that Tennessee game, so kind of focusing on that Western Carolina game. There's a conversation that you and I didn't have to deal with in our playing careers. C.J. Bailey, the freshman, incoming true freshman quarterback for State, everyone's been very excited about him and for him and what he's been able to do at training camp. There's also Lex Thomas in that quarterback room that's been around for a little bit. If it does jump out 30 points at halftime, something along those lines, Bailey has 4 games that he can play and retain his red shirt. Do you want to save those 4 games, or do you throw him out there against Western Carolina knowing you might get him a full quarter of action and experience?
You throw him out for multiple reasons for me. One is you want to get him experience. Mm-hmm. You don't know how many of these games you'll have. Ideally, for me, you would love to see NC State going at halftime about a 35-0 lead. Grayson McCall comes out for the first series just to get that feeling of coming out of the locker room at halftime. He plays a series, they get up 42-0, and then you let CJ take over for about a quarter and let Lex, finish the final, 2 drives or so in the fourth. So you want him to get experience. And then the other reason about red shirts nowadays is you don't know if he's going to be here for 4 or 5 years. I mean, that's just the reality is you might as well use him while you got him, because as much as I would love for him to play his whole career at NC State, the statistics show that majority of quarterbacks, where they start is not where they finish anymore. So that's you just play him now to get the experience in case something happens to Grayson, and you might as well use him. And then at the end of the year, you hope that you don't cross that 4-game threshold with the future in mind.
Just to back up what Mike's saying, and it's Mike Glennon joining us in studio here on The Drive. I read an article recently, 192 FBS scholarship quarterbacks transferred just in the last year. So during the last school year, obviously the next one starting up here. And the article, I think it was an Athletic article, was estimating 25 to 30 incoming transfers will start in the Power 5, and another 25 to 30 will start in Group of 5. So that's 50 to 60 brand new starting quarterbacks, obviously stayed among them with Grayson McCall coming from Coastal Carolina. But you're probably right that it's, saving a year of eligibility with a freshman, you might be saving it for
another school.
For another school, like and heck, maybe another ACC school. Like we've seen the transfers happen in funny ways. The last week of training camp, it's the transition week, right? You're into game week. What are state players going like now after finally getting into a rhythm of training camp and no school and all of that, and now going into the season?
Yeah, I believe school started at NC State this week, and since the game is on a Thursday, today for them is almost like a Saturday. This is almost like what a game day is. So I don't know if they're going to do a final scrimmage today or if they're already kind of onto the regular game season. So I imagine tomorrow will be kind of maybe a bonus extra day, either tomorrow or Saturday, to kind of get ready, and then they'll just go into their normal game week routine where you're doing scout team, where it's offense and defense are on two different fields, and they're in full preparation for Western Carolina.
Or for Tennessee, but they're probably at least throwing some cards up with the scout team for Western Carolina for a little bit.
Yeah, I do imagine there might be a period a day where they're starting to work on Tennessee, but you know how coaches are. They're focused on one game at a time, but their sights are also in the future for Tennessee.
Similar transition, right? You obviously spent your time at NC State, ton of success there, and then went on to 10 years in the NFL. Bryce Young and the starters for the Carolina Panthers, just earlier today, Dave Canales revealed, the head coach, brand new head coach of the Panthers, announced that the starters are going to play in preseason week 3. I think it's a little unusual to play in week 3 and not 1 and 2, but they are going to get those jitters out of the way. What's going through a new offense? I wish this wasn't the case for you, but you spent some time with a lot of different offensive coordinators, a lot of different play callers. What do you want to kind of get out of the way in the preseason with a new offense being installed?
Yeah, I think it's just Bryce Young hearing Dave Canales call the play in his headset and what that timing is like. How quickly is he getting in the plays, breaking huddle, just all the pre-snap stuff is as important as what happens post-snap. But for them, this is their kind of one and only tune-up. And when the NFL dropped the preseason from 4 to 3 games, it was the philosophy kind of had changed. It used to be the first preseason game, the starters played a series or two. The second, they played about a quarter. The third, they played the first half. And then the fourth, they were off. Now everyone's kind of finding their new way of going about it. But I think it is good for Bryce Young to get out there and play. And with the rest of the offense, it sounds like they've been kind of banged up at other positions, and maybe that's part of the reason why they've held him out in the past. But it'll be good for him to get out there and play with Dave Canales for the first time.
I'm going to nerd out here because you brought up hearing Dave Canales' voice in the headset. How different are guys, right? Because I never had the radio in my headset, just had signals coming in from the sideline. Are some guys like more chatty? Like is it more than just trips right, I-9, like are they giving you things?
For the most part, it is just the play call.
Yep.
At times, they may say, hey, look out for this. I know McVay is big on giving tips. I believe Josh McDaniels, I've heard, was the same way, that they would talk up until the point that the play clock cuts out. So for everyone at home, the headset doesn't go the whole time. It cuts off at 15 seconds.
15 seconds on the play clock.
On the play clock. So
league rule, you can't keep talking.
Sometimes, you may break the huddle and the coach may say a thing or two. But you could, analysis by paralysis. Sometimes you don't want to hear too much. On the more play call side, some coaches call it really fast, and others are a little bit slower and pronounce it and break up all the syllables. So that he's had plenty of that in practice. It gets amplified a little bit more when you're reading off a practice script and you already know what plays are coming versus in the game. You got to, react to what happened the play before.
Now, I don't know if you have any kind of history with Dave Canales. He seems like he'd be chatty. He's like the most optimistic, most like, let's go, guys. Can you overtalk in those things?
You can. I mean, you don't want to have the quarterback overthinking up there. Like, you give him a tip, and the quarterback's looking for that tip, and that's all he's worried about rather than the play. But I think at times you can help the quarterback. It's a fine line between saying nothing, which honestly, I would say 90% of the time, it's just a play call. Yeah. And then occasionally you might throw in a little bit of a tip here, or, you got this alert, and then you tell them kind of, if they're playing, man, then we're going to alert it. Or if they're got a certain front, if it's an over front, we're going to run this. If it's an under front, we're going to run that.
How difficult is it? And this will be my final question here. When they say, like, hey, if that safety takes a step down, take the shot, to not take, like, for me, I'd be dropping back going, I'm going to unleash the cannon. Like, you just can't not think about it.
That makes me think of Mark Sanchez told me a story. So I was with Mark in Chicago. He said when he was with Reich Ryan at the Jets, they would code it with red or green, like a play call. Like, it was a wristband, but they would say red or green, and red meant be conservative, and green meant, like, let it rip. So, you're going – you call a deep shot, and he says red, like, you're already thinking check down.
Yeah.
And if it's green, it's like, well, I'm throwing this up no matter what, which Mark obviously went to the AFC Championship. I don't know if it was that year. So, but I don't know if I would like that or not. It changes your mindset, and you almost predetermine before the ball's even snapped.
If I get it green, I'm chucking it, and if it's picked, I'm going to the coach like, you gave me the green light. Problem. That's you. Oh, that's fantastic. Mike, we appreciate you. As always, we'll check back in throughout the season. And everybody, tune into the Pack Therapy podcast. Myself and Mike on the podcast breaking down NC State football. New episode should be out here shortly. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for having me.